if they approve to automated yield farming, I'm going to use users tokens for the farming.
Okay.
Okay, this is a good idea. That's the question.
That's the question. Okay.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you implement it correctly, the thing is, so me as a user of your wallet, at some point, I will have to give you or a smart contract access to spend my ERC20 tokens. So you can then take them and put them in a liquidity pool or something like that, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why, as long as you have open source, I mean, you have verified contracts and people can see it and trust you, because at the end of the day, they have to trust you with their funds, you know? So as long as you make it trustworthy, yeah, why not? You can become like a fund manager.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main idea. You know, a lot of users, they just put their money to the wallet and don't touch it like as 1 month or 2 months.
Yeah.
So maybe they can make some money from their money.
Yeah, definitely.
Another question, how can I, you know, if I want to make a deposit to the AMM, I need to pay 2 currency, 2 pairs. Otherwise, it will be a slippage.
Yep.
Okay, how can I avoid this? Should I put some ERC token with, for example, Ethereum, or
I think what you can do is, if you're building a front end or something like that, you can do you can wait until you have enough funds to be able to do a 50-50 on a pool, you know. So if I'm just putting I don't know, wrap BTC, and I'll be honest, put in USDC, but I'm putting like, you know, 2 ETH, and I'll be honest, only put in 500 USDC. That's not enough. Or at maximum, you could put in a pool 500 USDC, which is like around 0.25 ETH, something like that. So you will use the maximum amount available, depending on the liquidity that you have. So it will be up to you to somehow find a way to calculate what is the maximum amount that you have 50-50 of both tokens to allocate to a pool.
Your suggestion, first check the pool, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can, I mean, if you have a front end, you can promote the specific, like, hey, we are from today onwards, we are collecting funds to allocate to this pool or this other pool. So you give your users enough time to allow you or to allocate the funds. And then at the end of the week, you allocate it. But yeah, that's an idea.
Okay.
Okay, shall we start? And if more people join, they can. Yeah.
Yes. Welcome, Tao. Okay. Feel free to ask questions, to raise hand, or to write on the chat. You're more than welcome to. And yeah, the floor is yours, Antonio. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure. So we're going to talk about developer experience on zkSync. This is like a beginner-friendly workshop presentation, because we're going to talk about all the different developer tools that we have, third-party developer tools, and also the things that we are currently working on, because we have a lot of updates coming in the next weeks. So yeah, we're gonna talk about those ones. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can, I don't know if you can raise your hand. If not, I will split this presentation into like 5 different parts. So at the end of each one, I will just ask, are there any questions? If not, I continue. If we have questions, we go through them. So this is the agenda for the next, I don't know, 30 minutes, half an hour, or 40 minutes, something like that. First, we're going to see what is zkSync era. just a quick overview, because in case someone around here is new to layer 2s, then we will do a quick recap of how do we actually use and develop on zkSync. We'll continue with an overview of the different tools that we provide to help you build applications on zkSync Era. And I'm also going to give you some guidelines that we think are important or worth knowing when you are building smart contracts on zkSync. And finally, I will give you a sneak peek of the things that we are working on. So that's it. So a bit about myself. My name is Antonio, and I'm a developer relations engineer at Matter Labs. I have around 15 years of experience developing software in a lot of different roles, both in engineering and also in product. As a DevRel at Matter Labs, my job is to help projects build on zkSync, but also to educate developers about all the awesome features that makes zkSync Era different, and all the different tools that we provide. Apart from that, that's my Twitter handle in case you want to follow me. And Solidity Tips is a blog that I started by then when I was learning Solidity. So if you want to check it out, there you have it. So with that out of the way, what is zkSync Era? And for those that don't know about it, zkSync is a layer 2 general purpose rollup that scales Ethereum with zero knowledge tech, and is powered by zkVM and has native account abstraction. And that's like a lot of fancy words over there. So what is a layer 2 rollup? Well, that means that it scales Ethereum throughput and it reduces transaction fees. That's what layer 2 rollups do. What is zero knowledge? Well, we use zero knowledge proofs to secure the system, which means that what we do is we generate a proof that the transactions executed in the layer 2 produce a new state, and we verify that proof on the layer 1. So that's how zk rollups work. zkVM means that it's programmable with Solidity and Viper, same as Ethereum, and the API from our nodes is compatible with the Ethereum API. So you can run methods like get block, send transaction, get transaction receipt, things like that. Everything works the same. And finally, it has native account abstraction, which means that under the hood, all accounts in Era are smart contract accounts. If you know about the different types of account on Ethereum, we have externally owned accounts, which are like your MetaMask, your Trust Wallet, your Ledger, and smart contract accounts. On zkSync, every single account is a smart contract account. Okay, how does it work? Well, it works with smart contracts. The way it works is zkSync has smart contracts deployed both on the layer 1 and in the layer 2. Layer 1 obviously is Ethereum, and these contracts interact with each other to keep consistency of the state. Once the system generates a zero knowledge proof for a batch of transactions, this proof is sent to the L1 along with all the state changes. And the contract in the L1 validates the proof and updates the state. As you can see in this diagram, the layer 2 generates blocks much faster. And once it has enough transactions, it creates a batch, generates a proof, and then it's when it's sent to the L1. So that's a quick overview on how zkSync works. From a user point of view, how do you actually use it? Sure. So from a user point of view, how do you actually use it? Well, first, you will need to deposit funds in the contract in the layer 1 on Ethereum. For this, you can use the official bridge or any other bridge that supports zkSync, like Orbiter, for example. Then, a few minutes later, or maybe less than a minute, depending on the bridge, your funds will be available on the layer 2. So then you can interact with any application that is deployed on zkSync. When you do any transactions, like buying an NFT, or, I don't know, playing a game, or doing a trade on a DEX, these transactions are executed by the zkVM. When there are multiple transactions like on the system. They are bundled together into a batch. Then the system generates a zero knowledge proof of all the transactions of this batch, and the proof is sent to the R1. On the R1, the proof is validated, and finally the state is updated in the R1. So the state is like when you did the deposit, we put, okay, this account has breached this amount of ETH. If you spend some of that amount on the layer 2, the new state is, if at the beginning you had 1 ETH, now we have 0.5. That's the update. And that looks like it's a very complex process. And how long does it take for the transaction to be processed? Well, layer 2 blocks are generated every 1 or 2 seconds, so transactions are instant. You won't be looking at your wallet waiting for the transaction to be processed. On Ethereum, blocks are processed every 12 or 14 seconds, if I'm correct. On zkSync, they are almost instant. The batches that I mentioned, they can hold up to 720 transactions, something like that. But this is a value that we can update on the system. At the beginning, when we launched on mainnet, it was 256. Then it went to 512. Now it's 700. And it depends on the type of transactions. And these batches are sealed every 30 to 90 seconds. So yeah, that's pretty fast, if you ask me. Then we know how to use it from a user's point of view. How do you actually build applications on zkSync? Well, first, you will write your smart contracts with Solidity or Viper. If you already have an application, you are most likely good to go, and you won't need to do any changes in your smart contracts. Next, you need to compile your contracts using our special compilers that are called zkSolk for Solidity and zkViper for Viper. And we use different compilers because the bytecode that they generate is compatible with our zkVM. At the end of the day, our system runs on a zkVM, Ethereum runs on an EVM, which is not the same. They're compatible, but not exactly the same. That's why they need different bytecode. Then you can use our SDKs to write the scripts or your front-end integrations. For example, the JavaScript SDK is built on top of Ethers, and it uses the same classes and methods. So in most cases, the only thing that you need to do is change an import on if you are using Ethers, you are most likely good to go with Ethers. Then you will deploy your smart contracts using Hardhat deploy, for example, which is the most used deployment plugin. Or you can use Hardhat zkSync deploy, which is a plugin that we built ourselves, that we created ourselves. And that's all we need to do. So yeah, that's at a very high level, the process of building applications on zkSync, which is not very different from what you will do with Ethereum. Any questions up until this point? No?
I think we're
Let's
good,
go.
yeah.
Okay. So that was an overview. What are the main developer tools that we provide? We have the zkSync CLI, we have these Hardhat plugins, we have SDKs, and obviously there are third-party tools and we are going to mention just a few because, yeah, they're pretty cool. So, zkSync CLI. It's a command line tool to simplify the process of developing applications and interacting with zkSync. It allows you to deposit, withdraw funds deposit and withdraw from testnet. And using zkSync CLI create, it will scaffold a new project with all the dependencies and all the configuration files, everything ready for you. If you have not installed this CLI yet, really recommend it with this command, npm install -g zkSync CLI latest. And yeah, to create a new project, you will use zkSync CLI create and the name of your project, and you will see something like this on your screen. Basically, it will just clone a repo template that we have with all the dependencies out of the box, and even a contract, a deployment script, and a script to interact with the contract. So everything that you need to start. When it comes to Hardhat plugins, we have 6 plugins that you can install independently, but you can also use the Hardhat zkSync toolbox, which is a single plugin that you can install, and it contains all of them. So whatever fits you better, you can install only the plugins that you need, or you can install them all with a single plugin. So we have Hardhat zkSync Sol and Hardhat zkSync Viper, which are the compiler plugins. You will use these ones to compile your contracts with our compiler. The Hardhat zkSync Upgradable is a plugin to create proxy contracts. It's similar to the Open Zeppelin Upgrades plugin. And yeah, it gives you all the tools that you need to create proxies, deploy them, and update them. The Hardhat zkSync Verify is a plugin to verify smart contracts. Yeah, you will need to use it. The Hardhat zkSync Time Matters is a plugin with zkSync specific assertions for your unit tests, because I'm sure everyone writes unit tests for their contracts. And finally, the Hardhat zkSync Deploy is the plugin that contains helper methods to deploy contracts on zkSync. And these are just a few, but obviously there are a ton of Hardhat plugins created by the community, and most of them, they just work out of the box, like Hardhat Deploy that I mentioned earlier, Typechain, Gas Reporter, or Contract Sizer. So you can just use them as well. We also have SDKs for the most popular programming languages. We have for JavaScript, Go, Python, Java, and even Swift. And as I mentioned earlier, our JavaScripts, our SDKs are built on top of the most popular Web3 libraries for each specific programming language. So for example, the JavaScript SDK is built on top of Ethers. Our Python SDK is built on top of Web3.py. So we are just extending these existing libraries. So that means that they use the same classes. Here is an example using zkSync Web3, which is based on Ethers. So it uses the same classes like wallet, provider, contract. It works exactly the same. Yeah, this is just a quick example on how to do a deposit, how to retrieve an account balance, or how to retrieve a block number. Everything is pretty similar, exactly the same as you will do it with default libraries. And that's the link to our docs, because we have, in our docs, we have specific sections for every single SDK. And every SDK has tons of examples on how do you do deposit, how do you deploy a contract, how you create accounts, how do you check balances, do transfers, like everything you need to get started. And the Swift SDK, by the way, it's been rewritten right now. It will be available in a few weeks. When it comes to third-party tools, zkSync Era is EVM compatible, so there are a lot of tools that just work out of the box. And here are just a few of them that I've been using lately and that I'd really like to highlight. Atlas is a browser IDE. It's similar to Remix, and it allows you to write and deploy smart contracts to zkSync. And the cool thing about it is that it has an AI on the side. So you can go to this AI, like it was similar to ChatGPT, and you can ask it, build a contract to build a Twitter clone, or build a contract to, I don't know, a liquidity pool or an NFT marketplace or whatever. And it will just generate the smart contract for you. It's really, really cool. DevRel, in case that someone doesn't know, they have a CLI, but they also have a dashboard on the website, and where you can deploy different template contracts like tokens, NFT marketplaces, like airdrops. They have a lot of them, and you just go to the dashboard, select the token, select the network, click deploy, and sign the transaction with your wallet, and the contract is deployed. And you can manage them as well. It's super easy to use, very, very cool. Setup log can be used for indexing, data analytics. There are a lot of dashboards where you can see a lot of the metrics from zkSync, like the number of accounts, the medium gas fees, a lot of information similar to Dune analytics. That's setup log. And the graph, which everybody knows the graph, where you can create subgraphs and open APIs. Basically, you listen to smart contract events and you index data. So that's pretty good. And these are just a few. Obviously, OpenZeppelin, you can use the libraries from OpenZeppelin. You can even use the wizard from OpenZeppelin. If you haven't seen it, it's like go to, I think it's wizard.openzeppelin.com or something like that. And you just select the type of smart contract that you want with different extensions, like I want a mintable ERC20 token, and it generates the code for you. You can just copy the code, paste it in your project, and deploy it to zkSync. Everything works out of the box. When it comes to wallets, MetaMask works out of the box. If you have a MetaMask wallet account, you can just use it with zkSync. Argent is an account abstraction wallet, so they leverage native account abstraction on zkSync, so it's worth mentioning it. And they also have a library to have like a login with Argent wallet, so yeah, worth mentioning that as well. So we've seen tools. Now I want to share with you some guidelines when it comes to writing smart contracts on zkSync, because I think that's important. First of all, there are some differences with Ethereum. zkSync is EVM compatible, which means that most smart contracts work out of the box, but there are some differences, like the way we generate addresses using create2, or some opcodes that are not supported, like self-destruct. We have a specific page in our docs that explains all the difference in a lot of detail. So it's a must read if you are deploying or building applications on zkSync. We recommend people using proxies. That's because zero knowledge is a pretty new technology, and we are constantly evolving both our protocol and the compilers. So if you have a proxy and we release a new version of the compiler that fixes a critical bug, you will be able to take your implementation contract, compile it with a new version of the compiler, deploy it, and point your proxy to the new implementation. So yeah, you can use proxies. We recommend them a lot. And obviously the Hardhat zkSync upgrades, which plugin, which simplifies the process of creating proxies, deploying them, upgrade them. You can use it. Next, the gas logic is different because the price of the opcodes is different to Ethereum. And the cost of transactions on zkSync and in all layer 2s depend on a lot of different factors. They depend on the amount of computation that we have to execute that transaction on layer 2, the cost of generating the proof, the cost of sending that proof and the state difference to Ethereum, and the cost of verifying that proof and updating the state in the L1. So this might seem like a lot, but on average, transaction costs on zkSync are like between 15 to 20 times cheaper than on Ethereum, but transaction costs are linked to the L1, to the gas price on L1. So keep that in mind. And finally, avoid using transfer and send, because these methods to transfer ETH have been flagged as insecure for many years already, but people still use them because they are called transfer and send, and they are the easier to use. People read all tutorials from a few years ago and they just copy paste code, but it's really not recommended. And if you use transfer or send to send ETH on zkSync, those transactions will most likely fail. So please use call, which is the good way to transfer ETH nowadays. And finally, test your contracts before deploying on mainnet. And seems fairly obvious, but a lot of people don't do it. So for that, we provide some tools as well. We have the local setup. The local setup is a Docker compose that allows you to run an L2 and L1 nodes locally. So you can simulate the whole thing, how it works on testnet and on mainnet locally on your PC. So you can, if you go to our docs, we have a section about testing, and it explains how to use it. It's super simple. You just clone a repo, run a script to start it, run a script to stop it, and that's all you need to do. And you will have your own zkSync node and your Ethereum node running locally, and you can send transactions to both of them, and you will have a one-to-one system that will work exactly the same way. So you will get the same results as if you were running transactions on testnet or on mainnet. Then write unit tests, please. And for that, we also have the time matches plugin, because there are some things on zkSync that are specific for zkSync. You can, for example, you can send a transaction from L2 to L1, or you can send a message from L1 to L2. So all those things are not covered in the time matchers plugin by default. So we have our own specific one. And finally, if you don't run your tests locally, at least use our testnet, please. Okay, before moving to all the new features and things that we are building, do we have any other questions? I see that. Are there any other difference between testnet and mainnet beyond ETH value? No, it's not. Our testnet is, unless we are deploying like a big upgrade on the protocol that requires us to deploy on testnet for a few days and before deploying it on mainnet, no, they are exactly the same. And that scenario that I just mentioned didn't happen before. So yeah, testnet and mainnet, they are the same.
So you for testnet, you still use Goerli, right?
Sorry?
For testnet, you still use the Goerli testnet for L1.
Yeah.
When
yeah,
will be available on Sepolia?
That's a pretty good question. Yes, we use Goerli, and it's a pain to deal with it because, you know, nobody can get some Goerli ETH, and we know it's a pain, and we are migrating to Sepolia. It's in progress. We have an internal version that is working. It's just that there are so many things, but I will expect that we are on Sepolia before the end of the year, because I hope we are in Sepolia in Q3. I see another question. When will you provide a plugin for deploying using Remix? I'm not sure if that will work via plugin or if we will just need to engage with the Remix people and just work together with them. But yeah, if you haven't seen it before, let me go back to the existing tools. Atlas is very similar to Remix. It's an IDE, it's browser-based as well, and you can connect your wallet and deploy contracts, same way that you will do it with Remix. You can use that today, and it works pretty great. And it also has this AI that helps you write smart contracts. Yeah, Remix, but eventually we will have Remix working as well, because we have a team working on integrations with existing applications and developer tools. So I cannot give you a date, but yeah, it will be working soon-ish. If you need a browser-based IDE right now, you can use Atlas. Okay. No more questions. Okay. So now we are talking about upcoming tools, new features of the existing tools that we already have. So the first one is the release of zkSync CLI version 0.2.0. Right now I think it's version 0.1.4. It doesn't matter, the version number. What will we have in this new version? We'll have deposit and withdraw to different networks. Right now, you can only deposit and withdraw funds to testnet. You will be able to select if you want to deposit or withdraw from the local setup locally, if you're running your nodes locally, or even from mainnet, which is great because you will be able to deposit and withdraw funds from zkSync using the terminal. So you won't need to go to our bridge or anything. We will have a Viper template project because we know there are a lot of people that likes to write Viper. So we'll have one for you. And you will be able to manage the local setup for testing from the CLI. So you will be able to start the local node or stop it, print the rich wallets that we provide. So everything, all of these features. And it will be available next week. I'm feeling like Steve Jobs, like announcing iPhones here. And by the way, the zkSync CLI is open source. So if you feel like there's something missing, you can open an issue in the repo, or you can just work on it, create a pull request. That would be great. Next, paymaster examples. So we've been talking with developers for a while, and we've realized that paymasters are still difficult to understand. So we've put together an open source repository with ready-to-use smart contracts, the paymaster smart contracts. If you don't know what a paymaster is, basically it's related to account abstraction, and a paymaster, very, very quick. It's a smart contract that runs some validations and pays the gas fees on behalf of the users or not, as simple as that. So you can write a paymaster that pays the gas fees for everyone, or you can write a paymaster that pays the gas fees of the users that have an NFT or from a specific collection, or pay the gas fees if you have a specific amount of an ERC20 token, any validations that you can think of. So we're going to provide an open source repo with different examples of paymasters, like gasless transactions for everyone, gasless transactions for accounts that are in an allow list, token gated and NFT gated transactions. And it will also include a front end, so people can see how you can actually integrate paymasters on front ends. And this one will also be available next week. And again, everything we do is open source. So if you need more examples, if you need more, if you are missing something, if you want to showcase your paymaster because you build one, you can create a pull request. And yeah, it will be available next week, and we will obviously announce it all over the place. Next, RPC node providers. So currently developers rely on the infrastructure that we, Matter Labs, run, which is not ideal because basically we are centralizing the network, and the performance can be affected when there is a lot of traffic, when someone is running an airdrop or someone is doing like an NFT drop or something like that. So we are going to have multiple platforms to easily run RPC nodes. That will be great because that will increase performance for everyone. You can have your own RPC node for your own application, and basically you can run nodes closer to where your users and you are, so you will have better latency as well. And this is a big feature request from a lot of projects because, yeah, everyone wants to run their own nodes. So that will be available next month. Next, Foundry, yay! Because we know that not everyone uses Hardhat, and Foundry, everyone loves it. So Foundry is actually available. We launched an alpha version of Foundry that supports compilation, deployment, and interacting with contracts on zkSync era, testnet, and mainnet. And you can find all the details on this GitHub repo down here. And don't worry about all the links because I have a QR code at the end. But yeah, Foundry is currently available on alpha. You can give it a try. I've tried, it works, it's awesome, it's super fast. If you have any issues, feel free to open an issue on the repo. We'll take care of it. And hopefully in a few weeks, months, we'll have it officially on Foundry. And finally, we are working on a new local node because, you know, the local nodes that we have right now, they require Docker, but we're working on one that will run in memory. So no more Docker required. It starts in seconds. The Docker setup that we have, it takes a few minutes the first time. And then, yeah, it's Docker, so it's heavy to run. This new one runs in memory, it's written in Rust, is super fast. And it will also include a lot of tools, like support for the best debugging tool of all times, which is console log. It will also have additional features like forking testnet or mainnet, replaying transaction, impersonate accounts, or even helper methods to debug transactions. And this one will be available pretty soon. It's zero specifics pretty soon, but it's going to be Q3 for sure. So with all these updates, we're going to take the developer experience to the next level. If you think we are missing something, if you, like you mentioned, Remix, we are really open to hearing what's missing from the community. Let us know, we'll work on it, because basically we just want to have the best developer experience out there. And before leaving, I just want to share some numbers about zkSync Era. We launched after 12 months on testnet and millions of transactions, even with a few restarts of the blockchain. And we launched on mainnet open for all the users on March 24th, which is 3 months ago. And it was the first zkVM on mainnet, as most of you know. And we have spent almost $4 million on security audits and bug bounties. And current total TVL, or total value lock, is more than $600 million, around $175 million on DeFi projects. And we have 2.5 million unique active accounts on the protocol. I checked this on a dashboard from ThetaBlock, so it's trustworthy. And we have more than 45 million transactions since we launched. And again, transactions are 15 to 20 times cheaper than on Ethereum, on layer 1. And we have more and more projects launching every week. We were 200 projects like a month and a half ago. Probably we are 250 projects or 300 right now. So I want to thank all of the developers building on zkSync, all the projects that are migrating the project, because yeah, they made this happen. And yeah, before we leave, here are some interesting links from that you might check. First of all, obviously our docs. We also have a migration guide if you have a project that is running on Ethereum or other EVM chain and you want to migrate it to zkSync. There you will find all the steps that you need to know. We have a lot of tutorials that you can follow, like from how to create smart contract accounts, native smart contract accounts, how to create paymasters, how to create a governance application that sends transactions from L1 to L2. Yeah, they are all in our docs, very easy to follow. We have our forum, which is a GitHub discussions page. We launched it pretty recently. There's a lot of very interesting questions and people discussing about how to build their projects, how to do this thing or that thing. So if you have anything that you want to share with other devs, you can just share it over there. Again, our ecosystem page where you will find all the projects live on zkSync, our bridge that you can use to bridge funds or withdraw funds from Era. And finally, our Discord and Twitter accounts. And as I mentioned before, no need to take a screenshot or anything. because there is this fancy QR code that you can scan. It will have a link to the presentation, and obviously in the presentation, you have all the links. So that's all from me. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Antonio, for the presentation. Well,
Yeah, sure.
Inviting the three people who are here to unmute and share anything that you want to share, even if you don't have any questions. We do have, what's the story with NFTs? Someone that is asking.
What is the story with NFTs? I have no idea. I'm not too much into NFTs, to be honest. But if you're just asking about which projects are building like NFT marketplaces or things like that, yeah, I'm not into NFTs, so I'm not the best person. You can ask PX Pana from our community manager. He's the one that it's into NFTs a lot. But if not, you can just go to the ecosystem page, which is ecosystem.zkSync.io, and I'm sure there is a tab to filter for NFT projects, and you will find a few over there.
I have another question for the hackathon, idea.
Yep.
It's involving paymasters feature. For example, I want to give the ability.
Be careful, because other people might steal your idea.
It's not a problem.
Yeah.
I want to give some marketing features to the DEXs. For example, a DEX can offer, if you do a 10 transaction or 10 swaps in particular time, they will not pay any swap fees, for example.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. And I'm not going to say it's easy to implement, but yeah, you can write a paymaster that has an allow list for accounts. If the DEX is taking care of checking which are the accounts that should be added to the allow list and which ones should be removed, then on your paymaster, you will have methods to add accounts to the allow list or remove accounts from the allow list. And then from the front end point of view, if the account is connected and is part of the allow list, you will send the transaction through the paymaster or with the paymaster data. If not, you will just send a normal transaction to the DEX.
So we have to add the allow list to the accounts?
No, not to the accounts, to the paymaster. The paymaster itself is a smart contract, and it only has two methods. Well, you just have to implement one, which is validate and pay for paymaster transaction. And it's in our docs, you will find the information, and we have 2 tutorials that explains how to build paymasters. But in this method, you will have access to all the transaction data, like the message sender, the amount, everything. So you will check, okay, if the message sender, it's included in an allow list, which is a list that you can have in the same smart contract, you will pay the gas fees, the paymaster will pay the gas fees. If not, it will just reject the transaction. And then from the DEX point of view, when people are using the DEX, you can have like a counter of like, okay, this account has swapped tokens once, twice, 3 times, whatever. When they reach 10 times, you will add this account to the allow list, and the allow list is in the paymaster smart contract, and that will be the easiest way to do it.
Okay, so is it a good idea?
Oh yeah, definitely. And this is something that I've mentioned, like, because we have had paymasters as a bounty for a few hackathons already, and this is something that I pitched to a lot of developers before. Like, at the end of the day, a paymaster is something that you as an owner of an application can use to incentivize users to use your application. So, for example, the example that you said, if you have done 10 swaps using our DEX, the next 10 will be for free. If you have deposited X amount of money in a liquidity pool or X amount of tokens in a liquidity pool, all the swaps are free for you. All those kind of things, like, or if you have, even for a DAO, like imagine a DAO, if you belong, you are part of the DAO when you buy an NFT, or when you hold a specific amount of an ERC20 token, all the users, all the members of the DAO will have access to a paymaster, and when they are interacting with applications across the network, they can use the paymaster, and the paymaster will pay the gas fees, because the DAO has a treasury, you know, and it can fund the transactions for everyone. That's also a very, very good idea. And these are the kind of use cases, because then you remove, if you remove the gas fees from the equation, then the user experience is great, because everything is free. So you just have to sign a transaction and everything works.
So can I build this a feature, a package for the DEXs? Not for only my DEX. I want to build this as a feature for the other DEXs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, imagine that I have a DEX. What you will do is you deploy a specific paymaster for my DEX. So you will have one for Uniswap, you will have one for PancakeSwap, one for whatever DEX. You will deploy one for me, and you will probably have to give me access to manage the allow list that we mentioned before. So I, as a DEX owner, I can decide who is in the allow list and who is who is not. And then I will integrate it in my front end as well. In the front end of the DEX, I would say, okay, yeah, if this account is in the allow list, we will send it to the transaction with the paymaster details, and the transactions will be free. So yeah, and that way I as an owner or admin of the paymaster, I can add or remove accounts from the allow list, but I can also add funds to the paymaster, or withdraw funds from the paymaster whenever it's needed, things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and another thing that I haven't mentioned is that with paymaster is not that you are only just paying the gas fees on behalf of your users. You can also enforce users to pay gas fees with an ERC20 token. So imagine you are Uniswap, and I create a paymaster that requires users to pay one Uni token. Instead of paying gas fees on ETH, I request them to send one Uni token. So they will add this Uni token with a transaction. The Uni token will be sent from the user's account to the paymaster, and the paymaster behind the scenes will pay the specific amount of ETH for the transaction to the protocol. And then that way you are increasing the utility of the ERC20 token, because it's no longer just used for governance or whatever they call it, or whatever they want to use it for. It's also used for swaps, or for using liquidity pools, or for any other thing. So that increases the utility, which should increase the value as well. So it opens the door to all these possibilities. Okay. Are we good?
I think we are. Thank you so much, Antonio, for giving the presentation. And thank you, the 3 people who joined, Furkan, Siddiq, and Tony. This is recorded. So if you want to go back, check out the links. We will also share the slides so that you can get access to all of the links. But yes, stay tuned for the next workshops that we will run. We will have one surprise workshop for tomorrow that I will be updating it on Beetlebox tonight. And then we'll follow up with Monday workshops that we will have our engineering team leaders giving all around security, privacy, and things like that. So yeah, happy hacking, and do reach out to us. Join the Beetle Era Telegram group. That's where we want to kind of keep the conversations in one place only, that is outside of Discord. And yeah, I feel like this is where we end this workshop. Have a great time, everyone. Thank you for joining.